When I woke up this morning, everything seemed normal. I was drinking my coffee, enjoying the quiet, when I spotted it, a bright red notice nailed to my front gate. Not stuck in the mailbox, not taped to the post, nailed right through the wood like some medieval warning. Emergency repossession notice. HOA mandate 17B violation. I nearly spat out my coffee. Oh? On my ranch? Last time I checked, my property wasn't part of any homeowners association. I've owned this land free and clear for 15 years, inherited from my father who bought it 40 years before that. I yanked the notice off the gate, the nail leaving a fresh wound in the weathered wood. 3 things jumped out immediately: a list of supposed violations including unauthorized livestock housing and non-compliant fencing standards, a fine for $5,200 and a deadline: vacate within 72 hours or face immediate removal procedures. The signature at the bottom read, Margaret Westfield, President, Ridgeline Estates HOA. Ridgeline Estates sits a mile east of my property. It's one of those cookie-cutter luxury developments with identical Spanish tile roofs and desert-friendly xeriscaping. I've never had anything to do with them, until now apparently. I took the notice inside, snapped some photos of it, then called the county recorder's office. The clerk sounded bored until I mentioned Ridgeline. "You're the 3rd call this month," she said, suddenly interested. "3rd call about what exactly?" "The HOA expansion claims. They've been sending these notices to properties outside their boundaries. This wasn't just overreach, it was organized." I asked if anyone had reported it to the sheriff's department. "Not officially," she said. "People just pay the fines. It's easier than fighting. I'm not most people. I don't scare easy, and I definitely don't pay for problems I didn't create." Before I could investigate further, a black SUV with tinted windows rolled up my driveway, kicking up dust clouds. 2 men stepped out, one with a clipboard, the other with a tactical vest and a hand hovering near his hip. Neither wore uniforms, but both had that unmistakable stance that screamed authority. Clipboard guy approached first. "Mr. Mitchell, we're conducting a property assessment on behalf of Ridgeline Estates HOA." I stood my ground on the porch. "This ranch isn't part of Ridgeline or any HOA. Actually, sir, under the new boundary extension approved last quarter, your property falls within our jurisdiction." He flipped through his clipboard with practiced efficiency. "We need to verify several compliance issues noted in our system." "Do you have a warrant?" His smile tightened. "We don't need one. HOA bylaws permit inspection upon proper notice, which was delivered yesterday." "The notice nailed to my gate? That's not legal notification." The second man stepped forward. "Sir, refusing inspection will result in automatic penalty assessment." I noticed something then, a laminated badge hanging around his neck. It looked official at first glance, but the logo was slightly off-center, the text just a bit too bold. I've seen enough real law enforcement credentials to spot a fake. "Unless you're actual law enforcement with a warrant, you're trespassing. I suggest you leave." Clipboard guy pulled out his phone. "We'll document your non-compliance. This will escalate matters unnecessarily." "Document away," I said, leaning against my porch railing. "And while you're at it, I'll be documenting your license plate, your faces, and those counterfeit badges you're wearing." That got their attention. They exchanged glances, and tactical vest guy muttered something I couldn't hear. As they retreated to their SUV, I snapped photos of their vehicle, capturing the plate number and a strange sticker in the window that resembled an official seal. Once they left, I called my brother. James has been sheriff of Coyote County for 6 years. He's the straight arrow type, follows procedure, respects the law, and has zero tolerance for anyone who abuses authority. When I told him about the visit, he went quiet for a long moment. "You're the 4th call I've had about this," he finally said. "Send me those photos. Don't engage with them again. I'm looking into something, and this might be connected." That night, I posted about my experience on the local community forum. Within hours, comments flooded in from neighbors with similar stories. One woman wrote that inspectors had tried to fine her for having chickens on her 5-acre property. Another man reported being threatened with daily penalties for his non-compliant workshop. The most disturbing comment came from old Pete Jenkins, whose family had ranched here since before statehood. "Margaret Westfield isn't just running an HOA, she's running a land grab. Check the county records for recent property transfers." I did exactly that the next morning. In the past 18 months, 6 properties bordering Ridgeline Estates had been transferred to a company called Summit View Holdings. All 6 transfers happened after HOA violation notices and escalating fines. While I was still processing this information, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Mitchell, said a crisp female voice. This is Margaret Westfield. No introduction needed. She spoke with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. I understand you received our compliance notice. I received your illegal trespassing notice, I corrected. My property isn't part of your HOA. She sighed like a teacher disappointed with a slow student. The board voted to incorporate adjacent lands under our protective covenant. It's all perfectly legal under the new municipal expansion code. What code would that be? Section 47B, approved last quarter. Her tone suggested I should have known this. Your continued resistance will only increase penalties. Show me the documentation. It's all filed with the county. You're welcome to review it. She paused. Or you could simply bring your property into compliance. The fines can be waived if you sign our membership agreement. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about fences or livestock, it was about my land. Sign the agreement, become subject to their rules, then either pay endless fines or sell under pressure. I'll be reviewing those documents, I said. And you should know I've reported your fake inspectors to the sheriff. They're certified compliance officers, she countered smoothly. And Sheriff Mitchell should remember that election season is coming. Ridgeline represents a significant voting bloc now. My brother. She was threatening my brother's position. Is that a threat, Ms. Westfield? Simply an observation. Have a pleasant day. The line went dead. That afternoon, I discovered orange survey markers along my eastern boundary, the side facing Ridgeline Estates. I hadn't authorized any survey. When I pulled one up, I found coordinates written in black marker on the plastic flag. They were mapping my property. The next morning, I drove to the county recorder's office and requested all documents related to Ridgeline Estates expansion. The clerk hesitated before pulling the file. There's been a lot of interest in these records lately, she said, glancing around nervously. The file contained meeting minutes, boundary proposals, and a municipal code amendment, all seemingly legitimate at first glance. But as I dug deeper, irregularities emerged. The amendment had been passed during a special session with minimal public notice. The vote was unanimous, despite affecting dozens of property owners who hadn't been properly notified. Most troubling was a master development plan tucked in the back. It showed Ridgeline Estates tripling in size, engulfing surrounding ranches and farms under the innocuous label Phase 2 Community Integration. My ranch sat dead center in their expansion zone. I photographed everything, thanked the clerk, and headed straight for the sheriff's office. James wasn't in, but his deputy took my statement about the fake inspectors. As I was leaving, she handed me a sealed envelope. Sheriff asked me to give you this if you came by. Inside was a note in my brother's handwriting. Meet me at the old fishing spot. 8 p.m. Come alone. Our fishing spot was a quiet bend in the creek that ran through the back of my property. James was already there when I arrived, sitting on the tailgate of his truck. No uniform, no radio. You're in the middle of something big, he said without preamble. And I need you to be careful. He explained that Ridgeline's expansion wasn't isolated. Similar HOA overreach was happening in 3 neighboring counties, all following the same playbook. All connected to development companies that appeared legitimate on paper but traced back to shell corporations. They're using HOAs as weapons, he said. Create violations, impose fines, force owners to surrender land or sell cheap. Then develop it at 10 times the value. And the county just approves this? He looked away. Some officials are compromised. Kickbacks, promised positions, threats. I'm building a case, but it's delicate. So what do I do? Just let them take my ranch? No. His expression hardened. You hold your ground. I've got a contact at the state AG's office looking into this. But we need evidence, solid, undeniable proof of coordination. Like the fake inspectors? That's a start. But we need the paperwork, the money trail. Something that can't be explained away as overzealous HOA enforcement. I told him about the survey markers, the development plan, the threatening call. He took notes, occasionally glancing toward the woods as if expecting we were being watched. They'll escalate, he warned. When intimidation fails, they'll try force. Make it look official, legal. They've done it before. So I just wait? Document everything. Set up cameras. Don't sign anything. He handed me a business card. This attorney specializes in property rights. Call her tomorrow. As he was leaving, he turned back. And Mitchell? Remember what Dad always said about the land. Our father's words echoed in my mind. Land's the only thing worth fighting for. It's the only thing they ain't making more of. The next morning, small things started going wrong around the ranch. The fence on my east pasture had been cut, clean, straight cuts that no animal could make. My main gate wouldn't latch properly. The security camera covering my driveway had been tilted upward toward the sky. Someone had been on my property overnight. I spent the day repairing damage and installing additional cameras, not just at obvious entry points but hidden in trees, barn eaves, even inside a hollowed-out fence post. If anyone came back, I'd have them on video from multiple angles. 3 days passed. Nothing. The silence felt more threatening than the vandalism. Then came the letter. Official county letterhead. Notice of zoning violation. My property had been reassessed as non-compliant with agricultural exemption requirements. I had 30 days to appeal or face reclassification, which would triple my property taxes. The signature belonged to Walter Kemp, county zoning administrator. I'd never met him, but I knew his reputation. 20 years in office, by the book, incorruptible. This didn't make sense. I called the attorney James recommended. Catherine Mendez specialized in property rights and had fought similar cases before. They're squeezing you from multiple angles, she said after reviewing my documents. The HOA, the county, it's coordinated. Can they actually take my ranch? Not legally. But they can make keeping it so expensive and frustrating that selling becomes the rational choice. She paused. Mr. Mitchell, have you received any offers to buy your property recently? I hadn't, but that afternoon, as if on cue, an envelope arrived by courier. Inside was a letter from Summit View Holdings offering to purchase my ranch for fair market value, to resolve ongoing compliance issues. The offer was 40% below actual market value. I called Catherine immediately. She wasn't surprised. Classic squeeze play. Create problems, offer the solution. She sighed. I'm filing injunctions tomorrow against both the HOA and the county. It won't stop them, but it buys us time. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the security camera feeds on my tablet, jumping at every shadow. Around 2 a.m., movement caught my eye, a figure moving along my eastern fence line, placing something every few yards. I grabbed my flashlight and jacket and slipped out the back door. Staying in the shadows, I circled around to where I'd seen the intruder. The moon provided just enough light to make out small devices attached to my fence posts, some kind of sensors or cameras. I was photographing them when headlights appeared on the access road, moving fast. I ducked behind a storage shed as a now familiar black SUV rolled to a stop. Tactical vest guy emerged, followed by a new face, younger, nervous-looking, carrying what appeared to be electronic equipment. Motion detection's up, nervous guy said. Perimeter's almost covered. What about the main house? Tactical vest asked. No clear line of sight. We'd need to get closer. Do it tomorrow. Subject scheduled for county meeting at 10. Property will be clear. They were tracking my movements. How long had they been watching me? I waited until they left, then carefully removed one of the devices from the fence. It was a small motion sensor with a camera lens, weatherproof, battery-powered. Professional equipment, not something you'd buy at a home security store. The next morning, instead of going to any county meeting, I drove to a cybersecurity firm in the next town over. A former client owned it and he owed me a favor. Within an hour, he'd analyzed the device. Military-grade surveillance, he said. The kind used for high-value target monitoring. Whoever placed this isn't playing HOA games, they're serious operators. Can you trace it? The signal's encrypted, but... He typed rapidly, brow furrowed. It's sending data to a local server, not directly to the cloud. Somewhere within 20 miles. He gave me approximate coordinates, a commercial building on the outskirts of Ridgeline Estates. I called James immediately. He answered on the first ring. Don't go to that building, he said before I could explain fully. I'm in it, Mitchell. These people aren't just aggressive developers. There's something bigger happening. Like what? I can't discuss it over the phone. But we've connected Summit View to 3 other shell companies operating across the state. Each one targeting specific land parcels, each one using similar tactics. Why my ranch? Why now? He hesitated. Your water rights. The aquifer under your property was recently reassessed. It's more valuable than anyone realized. Water in the desert, more precious than gold. So what's the play? I asked. Sit tight. We're executing search warrants tomorrow. Multiple locations including that building. Don't tip them off. I agreed reluctantly. Waiting has never been my strong suit. That night, the ranch felt different, tense like the air before a thunderstorm. I double-checked every door, every window. Set the cameras to alert my phone at any movement. Tried to sleep but ended up pacing, checking the security feeds every few minutes. At 3:17 a.m., all the cameras went dead simultaneously. I grabbed my shotgun, not loaded but intimidating, and moved to the window. In the distance, I could see flashlight beams sweeping across my property, converging on the house from 3 directions. At least 6 people, moving with practiced coordination. I called James. No answer. I called 911. 911, what's your emergency? This is Thomas Mitchell at Sunrise Ranch. Armed intruders on my property. Sir, we show a law enforcement operation in progress at that address. Please comply with all officer instructions. Law enforcement? That wasn't right. Headlights appeared in the driveway, 3 vehicles, black SUVs with light bars now flashing. Men in tactical gear poured out, forming a perimeter. One raised a bullhorn. Thomas Mitchell. This is the Enforcement Division of Ridgeline Estates Security. Exit the house immediately with your hands visible. These weren't police. The vehicles had no official markings, no county sheriff logos. The officers wore generic tactical gear with patches that mimicked law enforcement but weren't quite right. I stayed inside, phone in hand, recording everything. Final warning, Mr. Mitchell. We have authorization to enter and secure the premises under HOA Emergency Protocol 15. There is no such thing as HOA Emergency Protocol. These people were attempting an armed invasion of private property while impersonating law enforcement. I called the one person I knew would respond. James answered, voice alert despite the hour. Mitchell? What's wrong? Fake cops at my ranch. 6, maybe 8 guys with tactical gear. They're claiming to be HOA security with authority to enter. Stay inside. I'm 10 minutes out with 3 units. Those were the longest 10 minutes of my life. The fake officers continued circling my house, shining lights through windows, testing doors. One was setting up what looked like a battering ram near my front door. Then blessed sound, real sirens growing louder. 3 sheriff's department cruisers roared up my driveway, lights flashing. Deputies emerged, weapons drawn. Sheriff's department. Everyone down. Hands where I can see them. The HOA squad froze. Their leader, an older man I hadn't seen before, stepped forward holding up some kind of ID. We're conducting a legal inspection under. James cut him off. On your knees. No. All of you. To my amazement, they complied. Within minutes, the entire fake enforcement team was handcuffed and seated on the ground while deputies collected their weapons and ID badges. James found me inside, still clutching my unloaded shotgun. You okay? I nodded, suddenly exhausted. They almost had me. Not even close. He gestured toward the window where deputies were loading the handcuffed men into transport vans. Impersonating law enforcement, armed trespassing, attempted breaking and entering, they're going away for years. Among the arrested was Margaret Westfield herself, who had apparently been directing operations from one of the SUVs. She didn't look nearly as composed in handcuffs. As the sun rose, casting long shadows across my ranch, James showed me what they'd found in the raids earlier that evening. Falsified property records, forged signatures on transfer documents, detailed surveillance logs of targeted property owners, including me. Most damning was a corporate flowchart linking Summit View Holdings to a national development consortium specializing in water resource acquisition. They've been doing this across 3 states, James explained, using HOAs as legal cover for what amounts to organized land theft. The state AG is bringing RICO charges. What about Walter Kemp? The zoning violation. Never happened. They forged his signature. The real Kemp is cooperating with our investigation. Over the next few weeks, the full scope of the scheme emerged. 12 county officials were indicted for accepting bribes. The Ridgeline Estates HOA board was dissolved, its assets frozen. Summit View Holdings' parent company faced federal charges. Margaret Westfield and her security chief both took plea deals, providing evidence against higher-ups in exchange for reduced sentences. The fake officers received varying charges based on their involvement. My ranch remained mine, as did the valuable water rights beneath it. Catherine filed class action lawsuits on behalf of everyone targeted by the scheme, including those who had already sold their properties under duress. 6 months later, most of the legal dust had settled. James was re-elected sheriff by a landslide, running on a platform of property rights protection. The state legislature passed new regulations limiting HOA powers and requiring transparency in development projects. I installed a new gate, stronger with better locks, but kept the old one with its nail hole as a reminder. Some mornings I still wake before sunrise and walk my fence line, checking for anything out of place, any sign of intrusion. Old habits die hard. But the land remains mine as it was my father's before me. The horses still graze peacefully in the morning sun. The water still flows clean and clear beneath the soil. And the bright red notice that started it all? I framed it, hung it in my office beside the newspaper headline announcing the arrests. A reminder that some things are worth fighting for, that land isn't just property, it's heritage. Because in the end they were right about one thing: my ranch is valuable. Not just for what lies beneath it, but for what it represents: freedom, independence, the right to live according to your own principles, not someone else's rulebook. And that's something no HOA can ever take away. If you enjoy this story, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. From which country are you watching?